On Monday of this week, two men tragically died competing in motorsport. The motorsport was motorcycling, and whilst Formula One is different, motorsport is inherently dangerous. It carries with it risk, and it is situations like this where everybody needs to learn and everybody needs to ensure that measures are taken to try and minimise the instance of young men losing their lives by taking part in a sport that they love. Whilst everybody will understand that a motorcycle will offer far less protection for the rider than a car does for a driver, there are still parallels to be drawn. Being in a car still carries with it risk. Just because you have a protection cell around you does not mean that you are immune from harm. Now, we need to be working at carrying out sport in such a manner that it minimises the risk to those competitors. So, what I'm going to do is read you through what took place during this incident and what the lessons are that need to be learnt. I'm going to play through at the same time the footage from the Grand Prix, the Formula One Grand Prix at the weekend, and I want you to draw parallels with what it is that you are seeing with what I'm describing with what happened on the Monday. And for those of you who'd like to read the article in full, it's this one here: Fatal Supersport Crash, What Happened and What Next? So, two riders died after an 11-bike crash during the British Supersport Championship race at Oulton Park on Monday. Owen Jenner, 21, and Shane Richardson, 29, were fatally injured in a major chain reaction incident on the first lap of the race, and the third rider, Tom Tunstall, 47, sustained a broken neck and remains in a serious condition. The race was halted on the first lap after what series director Stuart Higgs later called a severe and catastrophic incident, as he announced the event was cancelled. BBC Sport looks at what happened and what is next for the sport. What happened? Just moments after the start of the race, one bike wobbled before going down and skidding towards the middle of the track as the riders exited the first corner. That led to a collision that eventually became an 11-bike crash, with oncoming riders unable to avoid the fallen bikes. The race was being broadcast live on TNT Sport, but cameras cut away from the track following the crash. Motorsport Vision Racing, who are responsible for circuit operations at Oulton Park in Cheshire, said Jenner was treated at the track but died from a catastrophic head injury. Richardson was also treated at the track and taken to Royal Stoke University Hospital with severe chest injuries, but died prior to arrival. Simon Patterson, a MotoGP journalist, told BBC Radio 5 Live, "It just seems there's been a chain reaction on the exit of Turn 1 of Oulton Park, which isn't a particularly scary or aggressive corner. But unfortunately, as we've seen multiple times all around the world, as motorcycle racing has become safer, as organisers have done more to reduce the risk of injuries in bike racing, the one thing that is very, very difficult to protect against is when you get multiple riders falling together and the risk of people getting struck by oncoming machinery." I think that's exactly what happened in this situation. It's super unusual to see so many riders fall together. So you can go and actually read a bit more about that, but what we've got is somebody has wobbled, somebody has gone down, people are taking evasive action, it's caused a multiple crash. Okay? And tragically, it's caused a loss of life. Now, when I scroll down the article, we get to what safety measures are in place. There have been a number of changes made in recent times to try to make the sport safer. I've grown up within the sport. I've lost a few friends. You accept the risk as part of the sport. It is inherently dangerous, Laverty said. We do everything we can to mitigate the risk in terms of our safety equipment, how the riders ride on track, how the event organisers prepare their riders, whether it's young riders on the track, how they look out for their fellow competitors, how they conduct themselves, how the marshalling is second to none. Patterson added, we've seen really important steps in the last few years in motorcycle racing. Things like all the riders now having airbag systems installed inside their suits that detonate immediately upon detecting an impact or before an impact to reduce internal damage. We've seen improved safety standards for things like helmets. We've seen more and more mandated top quality rider protection equipment, both on the riders and on the side of the track. So, despite trying to make the sport safe, there's risk. There's risk. You've got to mitigate that risk by educating people, by getting people to compete in the sport in the right manner, for a reason, for safety, for the safety of themselves and the safety of their fellow competitors. Formula One is marketed as the pinnacle of motor racing for cars. It attracts a huge audience globally. Of that audience, many young people will aspire to be competing in that sport. Many will never get the chance, but many might seek to try to compete in motor racing of some description. They're being educated by those who speak to them about Formula One. They're being educated by what they see on track in Formula One. What they're seeing on track in Formula One is dangerous. There are competitors who drive in a dangerous manner, willing to push their other competitors off the track, and the way that the sport speaks about it just praises that driver. Pretends that that is the best that this sport has ever seen. The governing body of the sport fails to penalise that kind of driving. They've got blood on their hands. It is their job to try to make this sport as safe as possible, not to turn it into wrestling just for entertainment. There are severe consequences. People's lives are at risk. Young men and women who want to compete in a sport are being placed at risk, are being indoctrinated, educated in entirely the wrong manner through examples such as what you're seeing now. It is the role of the governing body, the FIA, to educate. It is the role of the broadcaster, the media, Sky Sports F1, to educate, to demonstrate to young aspiring competitors of sport, of motorsport, the type of conduct, the type of way of competing which is acceptable and what is not. And that is how you minimise the instance of catastrophe, deaths in motorsport. I'll finish by saying I hope that Tom Tunstall makes a full recovery from the broken neck injury that he sustained in that incident. And our thoughts go out to the two young lads who tragically lost their lives on Monday competing in a sport. Owen Jenner and Shane Richardson.